Hello and welcome to our daily news sport. I'm Edward Sainsbury, and today our topic of discussion is Brexit and the 2030 World Cup. Here today we are considering how Brexit may affect the UK in relation to one of the world's most prestigious sporting events, the FIFA World Cup. In short, will Brexit have a negative impact on the UK's bid to secure the 2030 World Cup tender? In September 2018, Theresa May released a statement stating that following the excitement of this summer's World Cup, the English FA are working together with the FAs of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and Ireland to explore whether there could be a joint bid to host the 2030 World Cup. She went on to claim that the UK government would support the potential bid if the football associations are going to make one. The UK's four home nations and the Republic of Ireland have agreed to commission a feasibility study that should be published in 2020. This will consider the very real possibility of a non-EU country, the Republic of Ireland, and potentially a non-EU country, the UK, submitting a joint bid to FIFA for its globally prestigious event tender to host the 2030 World Cup. This may all sound very positive, having such a potential significant bid ratified by our own Prime Minister, and potentially offering UK football fans the exciting prospect of football actually coming home, here to be hosted in the United Kingdom. Since 1966, the UK has submitted bids to host the World Cup in 1990, 1998, 2006 and perhaps rather more controversially, given the UK's decade of acute austerity, the 2018 World Cup bid, none of which have proved successful. The 2018 bid required huge investment and exceeded on an original budget of £15 million by a further £6 million, an increase by over a third. The bid secured enormous media attention and high-profile ambassadors, including David Beckham and Prince William, leading the drive for the tender. FIFA also commented on the UK's bid as excellent and remarkable, yet we still fell short to secure the tender. Today, the UK still has to secure the Brexit deal. The UK is divorced from its EU partners. It will end the UK's membership of an organisation totalling 28 different countries who work cooperatively, driven by the EU's foundational four freedoms: the free movement of goods, services, capitals and persons, as set out in the Treaty of Rome in 1957. The agreement about a way forward that still offers cooperation working practices appears to be at an impossible stalemate just now, which may bode very badly for the potential World Cup bid by the UK if it seems that the deciding body, FIFA, to be bogged down in political, economic, social and cultural uncertainty. Nearly 3 years after the EU referendum, the parliamentary debate on Brexit will seem suspiciously stuck on key issues. The so-called Northern Irish backstop. This is a safety net that the EU wants to keep during its trading negotiations with the UK, should these reach a stalemate or result in a no-deal situation. It would ensure an ongoing open border and trading arrangement between one of the UK's regions, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, commonly known as ERA. This is seen by many to be critical for maintaining cooperative trading and, most importantly, political and cultural trust between these countries, particularly given their historical, acutely challenging and even violent times involving terrorism until the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, which was only in 1998. This was a precious and hard-won peace process, and since this time the UK and both Northern Ireland and ERA have enjoyed warm and cooperative relations. FIFA have a reputation for dismissing bids from countries mired in economic, political and cultural uncertainty. Colombia secured the tender to host the 1986 FIFA World Cup with a successful bid. Preparations for the major event started in 1974. Just 3.5 years prior to the event, they were forced to abandon the event, dubbing it the World Cup that never was. Critically, this was due to intense instability in Colombia, both politically and economically. By 1983, the rise of an extreme guerrilla group, but known as M19, infiltrating and corrupting decision-making officers in politics, and its economic collapse. Today, the long shadow of the World Cup that never was now hangs over Qatar as the world waits to discover whether the FIFA will strip the gas-rich Gulf state of the right to host the 2022 World Cup. The winning Qatar bid team for the 2022 World Cup allegedly breached rules by launching a secret black propaganda operations to trash their rivals. This serious corruption scandal may see Qatar stripped of their position for hosting the World Cup. Colombia offers proof that FIFA are prepared to plunge its sword of Damocles into any country when it comes to staging a World Cup, even with only 3 years to go, should that host country fall into an uncertain state. So bearing this shocking dismissal of a country's right to host the World Cup at such a late stage, it is surely critical that we consider to what extent the UK's uncertainty will be when it comes to Brexit. May it impact our potential bid for the 2030 World Cup? A feasibility study should show, therefore, include considerations of potential instability driven by Brexit issues that have been outlined and the likelihood that these issues may cause FIFA to dismiss the UK's and ERA's bid for 2030. The totally autocratic power of FIFA's executive bodies is also a very real concern for any country, given the significant likely investment if it would need to contribute if it was to secure the tender. Depending upon the financial divorce agreement with Brexit, the UK could be well placed to manage the necessary investment in the bid and the actual hosting of the event. It has always been a major financial contributor to the EU, and this would certainly decrease, well, at least may act as if it was a positive with FIFA in terms of economics assurances. In terms of FIFA decision-making body, the UK may also have an advantage here. On February 19th, the Telegraph reported that Greg Clark, the English FA chairman, was elected vice president of the World Football governing body. He commented that it allows English football to be represented at the highest level. This may be a positive factor of feasibility study, since it is responsible to assume that Mr. Clark would work hard to convey positive messages to FIFA regarding any Brexit-related issues that could continue to emerge during the bidding process. So, how do ordinary citizens see the picture? Earlier, I interviewed EU senior citizen, retired business owner from the Republic of Ireland, John Rooney. Mr. Rooney is a footballing veteran fan who has attended multiple major sporting events. He has also enjoyed 30 years as a season ticket holder, supporting one of the UK's top football clubs, Arsenal. This club is highly likely to be involved as a commercial partner in the potential bid. Mr. Rooney lives in both the Republic of Ireland and in England. With these highly relevant credentials, we were keen to hear his views about the potential bid. Thank you very much for agreeing to speak with me this morning, Mr. Rooney. I understand you're a great sporting fan and someone who would be delighted for the UK and ERA to host the World Cup.
Well, starting from the last application I made, which was unsuccessful, from now, the opportunities, the stadia, and currently it's 2019, and the main concern at the moment is everybody wants to be eco-friendly. And because we've got all the stadia, we've actually got the stadia. Now, the consideration is that generally when FIFA want to approve somewhere, then the buildings have got to meet a certain standard.
Yeah.
But because we have the access to Twickenham Rugby Stadium, we've got the Millennial Stadium in Cardiff, and we've got the Croke Park in Ireland, which are vast places. They could readily be adjusted, and they could make the adjustments, making it attractive to the people who own the stadium, because what they can then do is use the buildings that they might have to add on to then turn them into accommodation to sell or to let to other people, so that as a business proposition, it's very, very attractive, so that everybody who's involved in the application would be enthusiastic. I think that because we've got the infrastructure here, we don't have to spend millions and millions of pounds on building new places, and even billions.
It's brilliant. Okay, so as a retired business person, EU citizen, someone who lives between ERA and the UK, to what extent do you think the current political and potential cultural uncertainty with Brexit will hamper our chances with the bid?
Well, frankly speaking, we actually have remarkably a lot of people. There's even several guys who come from Norway to the Arsenal Stadium in London, and I know quite a lot of the guys and have known them over since 1963. these people who come to these places all have the same view, and thank God we all have the same view. That the politicians are mad. We don't think that there'll be any effect whatsoever on as a business, because obviously money talks, and FIFA want to make sure that if the money is laid out or people are going to spend money, that they're going to get good value for money, and there'll be no anxieties. If there were, the worst anxiety might be that Germany wouldn't be speaking, or France or England wouldn't, but that's all. They wouldn't be speaking, but there wouldn't be any problem.
Yeah.
There would never be a problem.
Okay, thanks for that, Mr. Rooney. And with regards to the economic factors are also important, of course. Given the last decade of austerity that the UK has endured, the BBC has reported in February of this year that FIFA's technical specifications for the World Cup venues are even more demanding now. We have also learned that modern venues such as Anfield and Old Trafford and even Tottenham's new White Hart Lane would not reach the required standard as they are today. What are your views about the possibility of big clubs like these, and indeed Arsenal, being interested in and likely to commercially fund the necessary adaptations and additions to their venues?
Right. Well, obviously, being an Arsenal season ticket holder, I was made aware at the time when they made the application to build their stadium, they've actually got a facility to raise the roof. The foundations at Arsenal Stadium now today were put in to accommodate 100,000 people.
Wow.
At the moment, it's 60,000, but they have the facility. Now, likewise, the same, all these other stadiums that are around, particularly ones in large urban areas, it's completely viable to extend and build and then turn the buildings that they put up, as long as they put a bit of good planning into it, then they'll be able to actually make other uses of them. And consequently, you mean the Olympic Stadium in London that West Ham occupy now, there's huge facilities in the general area. So it would be very attractive as a business proposition, rather than saying we're building a stadium and it's out in the middle of nowhere and once it's finished, it's a white elephant. These are the ones that are already in situ, are in an urban area, and therefore they're definitely very commercially viable.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that point. And just the last question now. As a former business owner who employed up to 18 staff at any one time, you will be aware that there may be future restrictions to the freedom of movement in the UK labour force after Brexit. How do you think that this will affect the UK's ability to manage the significant increase in recruitment needed to deliver for the World Cup successfully?
I think that's really a political white elephant. The actual people who want to work in the United Kingdom and in Europe, and really there's no problem whatsoever. I've got a friend who actually employs seasonal pickers who come from all over Europe, and he's not in the slightest bit worried. He says there's always work for people who want to work. It's the people that they're nervous about who don't want to work.
Yeah. Do you believe temporary visas would be a good suggestion?
Well, you see, a temporary visa solves everything, because then the bottom line is that if somebody comes in a temporary, it's like somebody having a month's trial. If somebody comes and works and they do really well, that employer's going to say, "Oh, hang on to this fella. I'm not going to kick him out the back door."
Yeah.
So therefore, the temporary visa would be a great idea.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Rooney. We will keep our fingers crossed for a positive Brexit deal. In the meantime, I look forward to tasting your Guinness when I'm over in Era.
Every little pint helps.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rooney certainly feels positive about pursuing the joint bid and believes there would be a commercial investment and interest from many of the major UK clubs at least. The feasibility study currently being undertaken between 5 football associations of the home nations and Era could assess this aspect fully. At the time of this report, these 5 nations football associations have been discussing their potential British and Irish bid to host the 2030 World Cup in Rome after the annual UEFA Congress in the Italian capital. Part of these discussions involved efforts to secure fiscal support from the British and Irish governments. State-funded support will surely be a vital part for any prospective bids, given FIFA's historical interest in demanding government interest and full support to host its most prestigious world event. The BBC has also reported that these discussions also expect to request government support to build an entirely new venue in Belfast for the World Cup event. In light of the last decade of austerity, we need to consider the value of any public spend. The feasibility study must consider the economic impact of this long-term event. It needs to consider the impact of tourism spending after the investment and the expense of staging the World Cup event, especially relating to new venues. For example, could the new venue being considered for Belfast offer long-term economic tourism growth for that region, with a knock-on economic impact on other sectors like those detailed in Visit Wales, such as construction, employment, heritage and more? So overall, do we need to bin the bid? Well, in terms of cultural relations and reassuring tolerant and positive views of Mr Rooney, an ordinary Irish citizen growing up on the border of Northern Ireland and era, have been endorsed by the British Prime Minister Theresa May in February this year in Belfast, where she reaffirmed the close cultural, historical and economic connections between Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland and England, and the importance of the Union of Great Britain, and positively supported by the tantalising possibility of the UK and Ireland to do a joint bid for the World Cup 2030. A positive voice for the UK and era's continued close cultural connections that surely should reassure FIFA that the UK continues to enjoy stable relations with other countries, including the EU nation. As the fifth largest economy in the world, the UK is a million miles away from the dark and dangerous, unstable Colombia in 1982. So, despite the UK's internal worries over Brexit, it is hardly a large-scale worry on the world stage. A joint bid between 5 nations, with endorsement and financial support from the government, will surely present positively to FIFA. Certainly after a decade of austerity, the feasibility study needs to assess the value of investment long term, the potential economic, especially within tourism industry, also securing the necessary extra labour force with the potential workers from the EU for this event after Brexit. It's perhaps more of a concern, but at this stage it is surely worth exploring any issues to do with labour and freedom of movement through the feasibility study, at least before giving up on the UK's long-held dream of hosting the World Cup again. Ultimately, I think one can conclude that the final decision regarding the UK's commitment to this bid should wait at least until the findings of the feasibility study in 2020. So, for you UK football fans, let's keep your fingers crossed and let's hope football is coming home. I'm Ed Sainsbury, News Flash Report. Thank you for listening.